Hey guys, welcome back to even more Fire Emblem Heroes content. Real quick, if you enjoy this content, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Okay, I appreciate it. We can move on now. So, today, we're answering a question that has plagued all FEH players since the beginning of time. How do I save orbs? And the question, it may seem like a stupid question, especially if you're not somebody who has played a lot of gacha games before, but keep in mind, the game is literally designed to make you spend orbs when you otherwise wouldn't want to. To get the orbs in the first place, you have to play the game, you have to open it every day, and every time you do that, it presents you with the newest banner, and also the news. And so, in order to compile orbs, you have to engage with the game in a pretty significant way. Not to mention, the game it has benign ways of making you want to spend orbs, like maybe they just released a character you want and you think they look cool, so you feel inclined to pull for them. Actually, that might not be too benign, depending on your perspective, but contrast that with the other way they make you want to spend orbs, which is basically, we're going to make this unit that is really strong, and if you don't pull for them, then you're going to be behind in the meta, and the game will be less fun. So yeah, going so long without spending orbs is a legitimate challenge, and I do not fault you if you are someone who has struggled in the past, considering, like I said, the game is designed to make you want to spend orbs all the time. This video is not so much about optimal spending of orbs in order to get good results in the competitive game modes. I'm not a top-ranking player, I'm just somebody who has succeeded in saving orbs in the past, and I want to share my perspective and my advice to people who maybe haven't heard these tips before. This video assumes that you already have a unit in mind that you want to pull for, whether it be a legendary unit or a mythic unit, like a seasonal hero. It could be literally anything. It could be that you need 200 orbs to get one copy and that's all you want, or it could be that you want to save 2,000 orbs and you want to go in on a legendary banner. If you're struggling to do any of those things, then we're going to help you out today. Finally, before we get started, I know there are other videos like this on YouTube, but I'm going to try and give some new advice, maybe some things you haven't heard before, maybe even some advice that goes against some tips you've heard previously. I think I'll actually start with the best piece of advice. We'll just start off right off the bat with a very helpful bit of advice. Don't pull for skill fodder unless you have a very specific use for that skill in mind, because every time they get a new banner, they release new units, and a lot of times they have new really powerful skills, or maybe they're dual skills, which would theoretically help you score better in arena. And a lot of times people get baited. They pull for skill fodder that they don't need. They end up not using the units and they sit around, and yeah, so don't pull for skill fodder unless you have a very specific use for that skill in mind, even if it really seems like it's going to be a meta-defining skill. Unless you're interested in using that unit in particular, or unless you have a very specific unit in your barracks you want to give the skill to, then don't fall for it. The only exception to this rule is distant counter. If you don't have distant counter fodder already, then fine, because distant counter is so ubiquitous, it's like, okay, you might want to have a distant counter laying around. I'm definitely somebody who is guilty of just obtaining skill fodder, getting excited, and then not doing anything with it for literally years, so definitely don't go out of your way to pull for skill fodder unless you have a specific purpose for it in mind. And I'll make a special note for the arena duel skills. Make sure that they actually would increase your arena score, and really think it through, because like our dual infantry 4, it may increase your max score in arena, but maybe you just don't have one unit in particular you've decided you want to give it to, and maybe even if you do have that unit in mind, you might go to the arena score simulator and find out, oh, it actually wouldn't even increase my max score. This actually happened to me recently because I kind of pulled for the new Paula with our dual Flyer 4. I was going to give it to Sita to hopefully increase my arena score, but not only Does it not increase my overall arena score? At this point, I obviously have Legendary Micaiah, who is taking up that slot that Sita would have had previously. So yeah, that's the deal with tier 4 dual skills. I think out of all the skills in the game, those are maybe the ones that are most likely to bait people. Tip number 2, avoid impulse summons. So impulse summons, if you play Fae, then you already have an intuitive definition for what this is, but maybe if you don't have a clear definition in mind. Basically, impulse summons are like, okay, well, I wasn't planning on summoning today, but suddenly I really want this unit, or suddenly I really want this skill, or whatever it may be. Literally all of us are guilty of this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how disciplined you are. Literally the other day, I tried getting another Plumeria because I was like, well, what if I need more close ward fodder? So yeah, you might tell yourself that you're just going to spend, you know, maybe 9 or 13 orbs. You'll just pull the red orbs or the colorless orbs on that circle, and then you'll be done. But if you do that, then you're not going to have those orbs. And once you get into the habit of kind of dissuading yourself from doing impulse summons, you'll find that your orb count goes up faster than you expected it would. And one way you can think about it is, every time you push away the urge to do an impulse summon, you are essentially gaining those orbs back. They are orbs that you wouldn't have had otherwise if you hadn't pushed yourself away from doing that. So you can think about it however you need to make it work for you. Tip number 3, use the owl box. So what some people do is they never collect the orbs from Fae on the home screen. And I think the rationale is, if you don't have those orbs in your orb count, then you won't be tempted to use them to pull. And that checks out. If those orbs are not in your orb count, then yeah, it's kind of an out of sight, out of mind deal. And that definitely works for some people. I have heard that before. Tip number 4 is to ignore tip number 3. So, in my opinion, I don't think the owl box works for me, because just a very gratifying part of the orb saving experience is watching the number go up. I'm a very simple-minded person. If I see 600 orbs become 605 orbs, then I just lose my mind. No, I'm being kind of facetious, but you'll find that if you just log into the game every day, you get all the orbs that you can, and you never spend orbs on anything, your orb count will go up faster than you think. And watching your orb count go up, it's just satisfying, and it will make you want to continue saving orbs. It has like a compounding effect. And once you finally get to like whatever, if you have a goal in mind, whenever you finally get there, it'll be like, okay, well obviously I'm not gonna dip into my giant 1,000 orb stash unless the thing I want is coming out. Next tip, I lost track of which number we're on. Play a different game. The less time you spend playing Fae, then the less likely you are to summon. It's very simple, especially if you get invested in a different game. I wouldn't necessarily suggest other gacha games, but I suppose that would work. I would direct you to like single player games, because those games are not gonna prey on you. So yeah, consider picking up a different game to play in the meantime. Maybe if you have like a month to go before your rerun happens and you're starting to lose it, you want to spend your orbs, just try and get invested in a different game for a bit so you can just kind of hold yourself over in the meantime. Next tip is to find a community of sorts, because if you can talk to people about your orb saving exploits, then it just makes it easier in general. There's a couple different ways you can look at it. You can kind of see it as other people can hold you accountable for saving orbs. I guess that's one way you can look at it, but really, I would more so look at it as like these people are rooting for you. They're rooting for you to save orbs because you're the guy who's waiting for the Spring Marissa rerun, and you want to pull 10 copies so you can plus 10 her finally. you can become known as the Spring Marissa guy, and it can just become a whole thing for you. It'll be fun. I've even noticed times where like people from the subreddit who like they become known for saving orbs for a specific character. Like when that character finally gets released, everyone is like they have like secondhand excitement for them. It becomes the whole thing. So yeah, definitely try and find a community or just try and find people you can talk to about the game and about your orb saving exploits. That will make it a lot easier for you, I think. Finally, if you want to save orbs in the literal sense, then you could potentially just wait for the rerun. So this doesn't really apply to all characters, but I guess it mostly applies to like the COYL characters. Every year, the COYL characters come out in August, and then they get rerun 6 months later with a higher focus rate. So theoretically, you could literally save orbs merging one of those characters by just waiting 6 months and then summoning for them then. That way you're using less orbs to merge them. And that logic checks out for a lot of people, but and you should keep it in mind. That is an option for you, but I bring it up because I actually want to say you don't have to do that. Like if you're literally just saving for one unit and like you saved your orbs for 6 months for that unit, then why should you have to wait 6 more months for the Hero Fest? I think you should just go for it, honestly. And that's actually what I did for Brave Micaiah in 2019. I had someone suggest that I could just wait until the Hero Fest rerun, and then I could get like, maybe I could get Micaiah and also Eliwood, and also Alm. But it just came very naturally to me. I literally just want Micaiah, so why would I wait 6 months? When the time finally comes for you to spend your orb stash, then you should do so without reservations. Never mind the rerun. But I think the original tip of waiting for the rerun, it might only apply to the COAL characters, because otherwise, like, I don't know, unless you're expecting that new hero to appear on a Hero Fest, like maybe Shinon comes out and like you can just tell by looking at him, okay, well obviously he's gonna appear on a Hero Fest eventually. Maybe then. But otherwise, it's impossible to know who's gonna appear on a Hero Fest banner. So I was editing this video and I realized I forgot to mention special heroes because they also rerun about 5 or 6 months after they debut in the double special banners. And what you want to keep in mind with those reruns is that if you wait to merge that unit until the double special banner, then you're not necessarily saving orbs. It's more like you may be able to use those orbs more effectively, just in that you may be able to get 2 5-star plus 10s at the same time. I would say don't wait for the double special rerun unless you think your patience can hold up in the meantime, and also don't wait for the double special banner unless you're like reasonably sure that your unit is going to end up sharing with someone you would also want. Just take a look at like a forecast video, like mine for example, and just try to get an idea for who they may share with. If it's a duo hero or a harmonized hero that you're wanting to merge up, then you can be reasonably sure that they will run with another pretty good seasonal hero, but otherwise it's kind of a crapshoot. And that's it. I hope I was able to offer some advice that you have not heard before. I think a lot of times when people give advice on this kind of thing, they lose perspective, you know? Like, you don't have to just play Fae. You could play other games in the meantime. Just as an example, you know, you're not playing Fae in a vacuum. If you have other tips for saving orbs, then comment them below. If you're saving for anybody in particular, then you can post about that as well. Post your progress on saving orbs. That could be fun. And I think that'll do it for me. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. As a final note, I'm obliged to remind you that this is a gacha game, and just because you save 1,000,000 orbs for the character you want does not mean you're guaranteed to get them. Such is the cruel nature of gacha. So it's not really a piece of advice, but It's more of a reminder that even after all that, it might not still work out, and you might end up feeling very burned. That the prospect of that is exciting for some because it's gambling. It's literally gambling, but yeah.